those of you that are in the crypto markets, I want to give you an update on what I see happening with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins in general. I want to talk about the 3 reasons that October could spell Uptober. And I want to talk about how I trade these, how I've been trading this. So let's get into this particular session. So I want to talk about supply. I want to talk about seasonals. I want to talk about technicals. So let's start with supply, right? There are roughly 19.5 million Bitcoin in circulation. And of that, there is a certain area that we consider identified and a certain area we consider unidentified. There's also a certain percentage of Bitcoin, and we don't know the real number, that is lost forever. So if you take a look at, say, that 19.5 million, there's potentially 20% of that supply lost forever. So what does that do? That puts us down to maybe around 15, 16 million Bitcoin. It's in circulation. All right, over half of that's identified addresses. So what's an identified address? It's an exchange that's holding, all right, or custodian. It's also ETFs that hold as well. It's miners. It's even, when you think of custodians, you can even think of things like strategy and corporations that hold Bitcoin on their ledger. So if you take a look at what's called the bracket here, this is the number, this is a bracket between how much that Bitcoin is. So the smallest minute area, only 22 addresses have been identified. But you get up into the areas where, well, what about someone that owns from 1/10 of a Bitcoin to 1 Bitcoin? There is over 10,000 verified addresses that hold that. How about 1 Bitcoin to 10 Bitcoin? Only 3,700. But when you go 10 to 100, it jumps to 37,000. Okay. Now from there it drops. 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin verified addresses are 5,720. Anything between 1,000 to 10,000, that drops to 1,000, and above 10,000 there are only 66 verified big fat beluga whales that hold that, and strategy is one of those particular names. All right, add it all up and you got 271,000 addresses, and then that's the addresses. The BTC itself, you can see how much BTC is held in those particular addresses. Total is around 8.7 million in terms of Bitcoin. Of the what? Of the 19.5. And really, in my mind, is of the about 15 to 16 that's really out there. So what does that tell me? Somewhere between 6 and 7 million addresses are what's called unidentifiable. Now, what's an unidentifiable address? Something that was walleted, all right, or cold storaged, especially years ago. Those are called unidentified addresses. Hey, I'm Tom Gentile, America's pattern trader, and while other traders are bracing for the worst months in decades, I already know what stock I'm trading this month. My money counter has identified the most reliable stock patterns over the next 30 days with a 90% or better historical probability. Scan my QR code or click the link below to learn how to get this month's money counter for just $9. Another thing we look at is available supply. So supply, and that's the supply that's out there on exchanges to be traded. Supply went up from 2011 all the way up and peaked around 2020. And since 2020, supply has been slowly dropping. And so now where we were above in the high 20s to nearly 30% supply was out there to be bought or sold. That's now dropped down to around 20%. Less supply means if there's less supply out there, as these takers keep coming in, and we saw it. We saw Michael Saylor and Strategy buy up some more Bitcoin earlier today at I believe 113,000 was the price that they were accumulating at. As those get taken out of supply, eventually the idea is that eventually the supply dries up and constant demand will outstrip supply to move higher. The other thing that's happening is mining is getting less and less, and that also has to do with supply too, because miners, as they mine, put that Bitcoin out on the markets and allow that for sale because they have to. They have to book profits. They have to pay expenses as well. Seasonally, if you take a look at this particular chart here, which is a scale of January through December, there's a lot of red everywhere on the screen until you get to October. And then in October, very few, most of October, we saw in the green. October's averaged a little less than 30% returns. And if you were to factor out the, even if you said, oh, I want to factor out the big mover, which was in 2010, it's still something around 20% returns in October. There wasn't a big mover until you got to 2013 in November, but factor that out too. And that 37 drops down into the low 20s. You've got double-digit returns that happen in October and November on average. Okay? So seasonally, things look really good for Bitcoin. And then when you look at cycles, well, where's it likely to top at? And this is looking at halvings. And so you look at those 4-year halving cycles, and you can see that those 4-year halving cycles average between 550 to 580 days after the half. Well, the 550 number comes up in October. The 580 number comes up in November. So even the cycle tops are suggesting that somewhere between October and November, we could see a top. But I believe it's going to be a little different this time around because of the big names that are out there that were not out there 4 years ago. So, trends and looking at charts. This is the short-term chart on crypto, and I mentioned last week that we were looking at a potential bottom here that may be a higher low. We were looking for that 109 area to breach. And I was looking for us to come down into the 108, potentially 105, but we didn't hit the 105 area before climbing out of that cellar. And as we sit here, we're around 114,000, give or take. So where's the next big move? Next big move, we have to get above 118 in order for this uptrending to continue. I would be concerned if we go below not only last week's lows, but last month's lows as well, the lows that happened right at the end of August. Then I'd be concerned that we may be in a lower high, lower low scenario, and that the top may be in. Longer term chart is more bullish because we haven't come down and even hit the 38% retracement level when you look at the lows for the year back at the level of 75,000. Finally, how do I trade this? My crypto strategies are threefold. Number one, I look at coins like Bitcoin, Ethereum, but altcoins as well. CRO is actually our best open position we have right now. That's crypto.com. But we look to time these coins for the biggest gains. Number two, I like to generate cash flow on crypto stocks that have options. So I look at optional stocks and we generate cash flow through that using something I call cash secured puts. I like doing limit orders on these. And then finally, what we'll also do when the run is happening, and the run isn't here yet, but when the run happens, you're going to see me start to lean over to the right and start looking at options leverage on spot ETFs, and that might be calls or call spreads using limits or even stop orders to get me into a northbound train when the IBIT train rolls out of the station or the ARC-B train rolls out of the station. So putting all of this together, if you've had a rocky move, and it's been a really interesting rocky move here with Bitcoin and crypto in general, because you just back up and take a look and you can see we hit that high in early summer, and we have yet to we tapped it one time in August, but since then we haven't had that move like we've had at the beginning of the year. And even at the beginning of the year, we were at and above the 100,000 area, if you remember back in November. So year over year, even though the number is positive, it's been much less positive than a lot of folks have thought. And we've went through a series of months of choppiness. The big months of choppiness happening in the May, June, and July area. And then again, since July, we haven't seen a new we haven't seen a move above 120,000. All right, come close, but we haven't gotten above that. So are we going to get above that? I believe so. But here's what I've been doing since then, and it has been working. Not 100%, but where have we been making all of our money at in this area? Coins, we've had few coins. We're doing well on our coins, all right? On the buying time premium, that's been tough. That's been a mixed bag. but the real money has been from generating cash flow with instant income, looking for those crypto stocks and selling premium on those stocks, because the premium in any area, in any industry in the stock market, has been in cryptocurrencies.